This is the Wheel of Time podcast on TV Podcast Industries. This time we're talking about Wheel of Time, Episode 4, Dragon Reborn.
I can hear them when I channel. All of them. Whispers of 1,000 dragons that preceded me, 1,000 lives I've led. And they're teaching me how to do better this time. Isn't that why the wheel turns our spirits out again and again? To learn.
Welcome back, fellow Wheelers. This is the Wheel of Time podcast on TV Podcast Industries. We're talking about Episode 4, Dragon Reborn, and I'm one of your hosts, Derek.
Welcome back, Derek. I am one of your other hosts, John.
Yes, and we have let you escape from your Aes Sedai captivity for those 2 episodes. But aren't you proud? Are you proud of us? Myself and John kept it 80% on track for majority.
Very good.
Yeah.
We mentioned on the last episodes that this is the first time you guys have recorded together on a podcast since probably Daredevil. Which is at least 5 years.
Oh, it's ages ago.
Yeah, it's like 2 cats. You can't get 2 alpha cats in a room. We're both vying for, like, 2 clown cats, actually. Right. Both vying for laughs.
I know clown fish. I don't know clown cats.
Yeah, they're the funny looking ones.
Okay. Well, no, you did a great job. Delighted I got to learn loads about the show from your knowledge, Chris, particularly from book knowledge, and John's knowledge of the earlier books. Your discussions are really good, so I actually got to learn loads.
Yeah, we've not done too badly, really, have we? To be honest, yeah.
Yeah, it was pretty good. Thank you very much for taking over for me when I had to go out to work. Chris actually took over my seat in my office. Not only did
it's very warm. It's very warm.
It stays warm for days after I'm here.
It does.
And coffee stained.
Of course. But let's get into our discussion about episode 4 of The Wheel of Time. Really looking forward to discussing this one. This is the longest episode so far of the show. It's just over an hour long. But the series being 8 episodes, you kind of have to have some nice long episodes as well throughout it. But lots and lots to discuss on this one. If you haven't subscribed to our podcast, you could subscribe to it by going to tvpodcastindustries.com, where you'll get access to all of our podcasts, all 628 of them so far, including the show that we're covering from this week, which is Hawkeye, Marvel's Hawkeye. We're covering that and Wheel of Time every week from now until Christmas, basically, right?
It's like an early Christmas present for me. It really is.
Yeah.
It's pretty good. And we do want to hear your thoughts about any of the shows that we're covering. You can email us to feedback@tvpodcastindustries.com with any thoughts that you have on either Hawkeye or Wheel of Time or any of the shows that we've covered so far over the last 6 years. Sure, why not?
Yeah, go on. Like it go on. It will keep you going over the wee winter hours as we toil away into, I don't know, even wheelier hours. See what I did there?
Kind of.
Maybe.
Wheel in a sentence, Chris.
As you weave away the wheel hours.
Okay.
There we go.
All right. Good stuff. You can also join us over at our Facebook group at facebook.com/groups/TV Podcast Industries if you want to get in contact with us directly, or any of the other listeners and wheelers of Wheel of Time. You can get us over there. Let's get into the episode. First up, the episode details. This is, of course, based on the book series by Robert Jordan. Showrunner for the show is Rafe Lee Judkins. And the episode here was written by Dave Hill. He was a staff writer on all episodes of season 5 of Game of Thrones, wrote an episode of season 6, 2 in season 7, and the premiere of the final season named Winterfell, which I think we all remember because everybody was gearing up for the 8th and final season of Game of Thrones. I think we all remember that first episode being a big one. I will come out right now and say that I do feel this episode is the one that felt most like an episode of Game of Thrones.
Yes.
It felt like it had that really good way that they followed multiple groups and had lots of exposition in each of the groups and lots of events happening with each of the groups and ended with a massive battle at the end. It felt very Game of Thrones.
And a little bit of Tamus exposition in the sense of sort of highlighting the bond between the Aes Sedai and their warder, or warders in this case. Yes.
That's very true.
We've gone from slap and tickle to rumpy pumpy very quickly.
Yes, we did.
From the intrigue aspects of like the Aes Sedai and the in and outs of their political machinations across the Aes, down to, as John said, the sexual innuendo just that is kind of there around the warders, and they all have a bond as the three return up to the kind of their tent, retire to their tent. I'm liking the different takes that the different writers are bringing. You can feel some of the different elements being brought in from each of the different writers, so that when they do have these kind of episodes, you can feel this is a bit more political, kind of exposition-y, whereas you can feel others are very much, okay, let's go on the journey one, where it's the chase across, or it was the chase of the Trollocs.
Yeah.
Across a kind of White Bridge, or to White Bridge.
Yeah, I think you can certainly see from this episode why Dave Hill would be brought on board for it. Now, of course, there's a writer's room, so everybody's involved. I know the Clarkson twins, who you guys mentioned last week, who wrote episode 3, they kind of have the overarching storyline, and then Rafe Lee Judkins, being the showrunner, is the one that keeps everything on track to the vision that he has for the show as well. So, and they're all based on books as well. So he knows pretty much the plan for all 15 seasons of the show, or 7 seasons of the show, as has been projected. The episode again is directed by Wayne Yip, who directed episode 3. Chris, you did a great job explaining all the stuff that he's done in the past last week, along with the upcoming Lord of the Rings TV show, which we'll be covering next year as well. But John, do you want to tell us what they gave us with your synopsis for this episode of Wheel of Time, episode 4, Dragon Reborn?
Sure. At a camp on the way to Tar Valon, the self-proclaimed Dragon Reborn, Logain Albar, is under the control of the Aes Sedai, but his power is such that 2 Aes Sedai must work together, taking turns to use the true source to bind him. But on his rise to prominence, Logain has grown his followers across the land with promises of making the world a better place. The Aes Sedai debate what to do with Logain, while the Red Sedai believe they should punish Logain now, stripping him of his contact to the One Power. Moraine struggles with uncertainty about the path forward with this newly proclaimed dragon. While the warders catch up with one another, Lan struggles to understand their new companion, and Nynaeve just tries to keep her head down as she is surrounded by the Aes Sedai and their warders. Perrin and Egwene embark in a new direction on the plains of Canolin with the Tauathan and learn more about their ways, culture and history. On the road east, pursued by a Fade, Rand, Mat and Tom seek shelter and rest from a family at a farmstead. Offered the bomb for the night, Rand begins to worry about Mat's behaviour. In the middle of the night, Rand awakens to find Mat missing from his bed. Searching for him, Rand finds Mat in the farmhouse, out of sorts with his dagger drawn and surrounded by the dead bodies of the farmer and his family. But they are not alone. The Fade is also there and seeks to claim his prey for his master. As the blackness recedes from around Mat's lips, Rand drags him from the danger. While Tom fights the Fade, Rand and Mat escape to safety. Just as the camp comes under attack from Logain's followers to rescue him, and with the Aes Sedai tiring from the effort to bind him, Logain manages to use the true source to break free of his prison. He is confronted by Moraine, who still doubts that he is the dragon, and manages to delay him long enough for her sisters to restrict him once again, but not before Kareen, one of the Aes Sedai, is killed by his power. Sensing this death, the warders and other Aes Sedai rush to assist them and contain Logain, but his power is too great, and he bursts out from the weave set around him by the Aes Sedai, causing devastation and fatal injuries in their ranks. But at that moment, Nynaeve, trying to save Lan from bleeding out, unleashes a new incredible power on the world.
With explosive results.
Yes. Light of a star or a sun, I think, is what Logain actually says.
That's right.
Yes.
That's right, yeah.
Blinding brilliance.
Massive power here from Nynaeve.
Yeah.
In this episode. Yeah, really big moment.
I love her hair sticking up as well. Like, it's so, she's just really going for it with all the effort.
Yeah.
Can I call one thing quickly out? before we even get into our spokes and our spoiler-filled spokes, I want to give massive props to the visual department here.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
I talked to John about this last week, and I think I kind of mentioned it in the podcast as well. For years, I've been imagining how the one power looks, how shielding looks, how the side in and side on, the male and female power works. I think they're pronounced differently. I will get that right as soon as they fully start talking about it in the show. But how visually they have adapted the look and feel for the oily blackness of the male source and the very pure white fluid kind of air aspect for the female source, and how they channel just spectacular. I can only call it spectacular because for years, especially at the ending where they join and you see this for the first time in a visual medium, it's fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely. Not having the history with it, I will say it is spectacular. Even without those ideas in my head, you get a real good sense of what exactly is going on. We've seen magic before in movies, many times, but this does feel like something unique to this show. It's doing its own thing, and really, really good to be able to do that, I suppose.
Yeah, really good. But should we get on to the spokes of the wheel, our top spokes?
Would you call it the spokes of the week?
Spokes of the week, indeed, yeah. Spoke one, because I think it links to what you're saying there about the difference of the power when it comes from a man, as opposed to how we've seen it deployed by the Aes Sedai. And that is spoke one, Logain. How he got here and where he's at. So a kind of a little potted history, I guess, of Logain. Because just to come to your point about the black and white of that weave and the power, I thought it was really interesting here when we see Logain and his followers attacking and conquering the city of Gyeldon with the king. There is a moment where it feels like the weave that he is weaving with his power has elements of white in it, which was really, really interesting, because for me this really, a lot of this in the episode for this week was quite new. I hadn't come across it before, and just because he does make that really nice sort of speech to the king that effectively persuades the king of Gyeldon to come on board and be one of his followers, is that he plans to bind the world. His intentions, at least, are not to necessarily break it. He seems quite conciliatory. You think he's going to turn the dagger of the king's own dagger, onto him, but it's just to release it. And then he seems quite conciliatory. This is a really good intro to this character, because actually the rug is pulled immediately. You think the knife's going to be thrust into the king. He's certainly using it for his defense and his attack in attacking the city of Gyeldon. But I really enjoyed this, because immediately it puts a doubt into your mind as to what he intends to do. And we've heard Moraine say that the dragon could be equally going to mend the world rather than break it, or prevent the Dark One rather than effectively go to his side. And interestingly, even at the Aes Sedai camp, there is that there's a brief conversation between Moraine and, I think, probably what's described in this episode as one of her closest friends in the Aes Sedai, the Aes Sedai that's in green, where she even says, what if the dragon is supposed to be with us at the end? That he is actually fighting with them. And so I loved this, because this completely, dare I say it, broke my expectations. And now they'll have to bind them back into place as to what they will what this means. So this actually, this was really cool for me, this opening.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, it's a really good storytelling mechanism. We always say that it's really important in movies and TV shows to show, not tell, especially when you've got the amount of exposition this show has to get through. We were talking about it in episode 1, and actually we have a bit of feedback later on about it. We were talking about it in episode 1 that you came out with the feeling that effectively the dragon needs to be stopped, that the dragon has one purpose. It'll come back. It'll be an enemy effectively. Whereas here it's really clear, shown on screen, that the dragon has a choice. And in this case, Logain is calling himself the dragon, and he has a choice here. But I like how difficult that choice is and how it's put on screen. It's got what we thought were the voices in his head. We heard the whispers in the past. In the show, what we see here is the whispers are kind of personified for Logain. He's got 2 personifications over his shoulder, effectively saying, kill the king. Yep. He has to fight against them the whole time to uphold his ideal that he's going to be the one that will bind the world. So I like that he is saying, I'm going to do the good thing. I'm going to do the right thing. I believe I'm in the right. I don't have to break the world apart. But actually, he's under a hell of a lot of pressure to hold back all those voices that are telling him, kill this person. They're just going to turn on you. They even say they're going to turn on you like your parents did, like your sister did, which makes me feel that this expanded story of Logain is that maybe he listened to those voices in the past and killed his parents and killed his sister, is what that feels like from those kind of guiding voices that he's got. But he's pushing them back. He's stopping them.
Exactly. Yeah. It's those voices, chipping away at him over time. And you know what they say about good intentions. So whilst in this moment we see good intentions and him fighting the urge to kill the king or whatever, who knows if over time that wouldn't ultimately consume him. Although, things play out in this episode that suggest otherwise.
Yeah, 100%. So I'm going to piece some bits together for you guys so that to kind of give you a greater kind of view. So we hear it later in the episode, he does explain that the dragons from the past are guiding him. So essentially the voices that he is hearing is what he considers to be the dragons previous. Guiding him, teaching him how to use the powers. So the male and female there were the dragons in his head. John, into your point about you saw some white in the way he weaved the powers. So we have heard in the show how the Dark One tainted the male source. So essentially, male and females channel the one source the same way. It is this beautiful white kind of power. The black, icky substance is the Dark One's taint on the male channeling source. Yeah. So you will always see, and that's why you see this cuts of white when a male channels. But it's just got this horrible, icky tar, almost like around and on top of it. Right. So you can see the white in the middle. In terms of the visualization of his voices, the personification, that was spectacular. So cool. It could have gone so wrong in that you could have had almost like that Venom, like in like Venom chatting to Eddie in Venom or the second Carnage one as well, where it was that just kind of like a head attached to kind of some oil kind of going, nah. Yeah. This just looked slick, but great. It was just, I was so impressed by the that kind of flittering away of it. Yeah. And yeah, you're right. His choice, with just that one short, let's say 4-minute scene, they show and tell you a lot. He has his own army. He's spared a king. He's essentially, he is hearing voices, but he has the ability to not listen to them. He has the ability to defy them. It's not, and so is he mad though? Because we saw voices. Yeah. Is that just him making the voices, or is it something more?
Yeah, and you say spare a king. He actually encouraged the king to follow him, to join his own army. It's not even that he's just spared him and left him behind. He is now creating his army for everybody around him. He says all the right things, which is what makes him a really interesting character in the show. He's saying all of these things, kind of putting doubt on what the Aes Sedai are doing. This idea that the Aes Sedai possibly have just been killing people to stop them getting their power. That potentially maybe if they've let someone live like him and worked with them, that we could have had a better world where he would have healed and bound it, is kind of the way he's saying it. That you brought up the one thing that did confuse me about it, because we've heard of the prophecy of the dragon being reborn, that thousands of years after the world broke, that a dragon will be reborn. That's why Moraine is going to find the kids in their town. Yet he talks about the fact that there are thousands of dragons from history who were giving him guidance. Mm-hmm. So I don't know why there are thousands of dragons.
So the wheel turns. The wheel keeps turning.
Yeah.
So essentially, there is always a dragon, or the prophesized one, who will mend or break the world.
Okay, because I thought the prophecy was for the one dragon to be reborn to mend the world at this time that we're centered on in the world now.
The way I had kind of taken this was that there was a moment during the turning of the wheel that a person, a male that could channel the source, was reborn, reincarnated. We've heard this through the Travelers. We've heard this from Beltane and the Feast of Lights about the souls coming back into the world. So that happened. Yeah. But the mantle or the title of the dragon was because in this particular instance, they were corrupted by the Dark One, and how they chose to use that power and how they chose to use it in the world broke the wheel. But that ultimately you could have moments where, and I have no idea. This is, like I'm talking thousands of wheel turns back in history where there's a situation where you have both women and men using the power in a way that's uncorrupted. It's that moment where it's corrupted by the Dark One, and it was taken, the choice of the one that was reborn was to side with the Dark One and break the wheel, and to break the world. And then the mantle of the dragon came. So I was almost feeling that these thousands of voices could have been from any point in history in this world. That's also why I thought there was bits of white there, was that those that decided not to side with the Dark One, there was some influence within the one source, the power, still there, speaking to him.
I suppose what I mean is this is probably the piece of the story that needs a bit more clarification from me, because it is, you're right, Chris, it is just one line that Logain says about thousands of voices speaking to him. I don't know what's going to happen to Logain after this episode now. We'll talk about that later on. But, but he seems to be saying there are thousands of dragons out there, and it makes you wonder whether all of the people at the Aes Sedai have put on trial and killed who had access to the power, the men and women that took the power and could have potentially become, in their minds, working for the Dark One, that potentially they were all dragons and they're all the ones that were speaking to him. But the prophesized one dragon that will stand up and join the Dark One is someone that's happening right now. You even hear from Lan that how could this guy possibly be the dragon reborn, because he's at least 10 years older than the other kids that were in Two Rivers. Yeah.
So, we've talked about telling people to go to Amazon Prime, going people to Prime Video to go into the X-Ray. Mm-hmm. On the Prime Video homepage for the Wheel of Time, there is a whole new Explore Lore section. So I'm going to read what it says about the dragon, because I'm afraid that I'm going to give away too much, but this is in the app. You can read it.
Yeah.
When you look up the dragon, it says champion of the light or the dark. Mm-hmm. The person who can stand against the Dark One if they so choose. There is always a dragon born in every age. Mm-hmm. The last being Louis Therin Talamon, whose hubris led to the tainting of the male half of the one power and resulted in the breaking of the world. This age's dragon, often called the Dragon Reborn, could save the world or destroy it. So that's how they're defining the dragon as of right now.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So I think that's what's probably confusing me, because I think if I read my detail correctly on this show, The Wheel of Time, we're only in the third age. So there's only one born every age. How are there thousands of them?
So,
So
there's many potential dragons.
Right.
There is only one
So
dragon.
so I was right. It's the potential dragons that are speaking to him, and all the ones that have passed. It's not just the main dragons.
He thinks.
Yeah.
Now, do remember that we saw at the very opening episode 1, we saw a male channeler
Exactly.
talk to his friend,
Yeah.
and then that friend was poof.
The unreliable narrator, of course, comes in here, and everybody here is unreliable because we started with the Aes Sedai telling us all the history of the world,
Yes.
and they could be lying as well. So, you did mention the Amazon Prime Video, Chris, and the behind the scenes stuff, and some of the details that are on there. What they've also put up since the episodes dropped last week, they put up some animated shorts, which give lots of interesting history. They're about 3 to 5 minutes long, beautiful style of artwork, actually.
Yeah, really cool.
Really good voiceovers and some more context again. But I suppose as the TV show viewer, because I don't have any knowledge of the books, I just think this element needs a little bit more explanation. I'm sure it will be because they've had 15 books to explain it. So
It will be explained in this series. This series? It will be explained in this series. No, it will also be explained in this season. It will be explained in this season. It will, there's a conversation in one of the marketing materials, which I assume is cut from one of the later episodes. So the assumption is it will be there. And if not, they then filmed a very elaborate conversation and then just for a marketing material.
Yeah, as I say, I'm sure it's upcoming on the show itself. Back to Logain himself. He is way more powerful than anybody that we've seen. He's probably because he's been in control of it. He knows what he's doing. He's used to it. Again, 10 years older than everybody else. That's a potential for the dragon that we've seen so far. But I really love this idea, the Aes Sedai keeping him suppressed and needing to have 2 guards at least every time, and making sure that the shield didn't drop effectively when they change over to a new person. When Moraine comes in and joins them, they have to make sure that there's 3 people shielding him and then 1 steps away. Great performances from each of them, showing that kind of transfer of power and how much Logain is pushing back against it, even though he looks like he's just sitting there.
Yeah.
And then the comment from Leandrin saying that's only him at half power.
Yeah.
And it's still a struggle for all of us to keep him back, you know?
Yeah.
It's
so
really
he
good.
is one of the most powerful that we've seen to date in this. And one thing I wanted, just the visualization of the shielding. This is a big thing from the books, how they cut you off from the source, both male and females. And seeing a shield placed, because they later on, so in the books, they talk about slamming in the shield.
Right.
And I was like seeing this at the beginning of this episode, you see this gentle form of a shield just drape over Logain, and it just then kind of envelops. Like they talk about it kind of snapping in place and being very visceral, because essentially it's cutting the channeler off from the power.
Yeah.
So it's very much almost like a slamming and cutting a source, like a river off. So it was just like, that's very gentle. It's very,
It's like a membrane that they're putting on.
Yeah, and it just didn't look it. And it was only later when they threw that slam in, it was like, oh, now you can see these different. They chose to like show it just visually differently, because one was just, I'm just coming in to join my shield, this shield, whereas the other one was like slamming it in. It's like, thunk. And I was like, oh, that's cool.
Yeah, because at the beginning, it's a net that they're trying to keep him in. It's a prison that they're keeping him in. There's a great conversation that's going on between all the Aes Sedai about what should be happening with him. You know, we hear from Leandrin that effectively she wants to cut him off from the source or kill him without trial, basically. It's kind of what she wants. That's it. Why would we even bring him to the White Tower? We hear a bit about the Amelin seat. Would that be the way they pronounce it?
That's correct, yeah.
That's kind of the leader of the Aes Sedai who's given the edict that anybody that is a dragon or anybody that shows power should be brought to the White Tower for a trial. And it seems like Leandrin has been out in the field for way too long, because it's kind of, well, I'm not going to walk there and back again. I'm going to go and kill the person right now, because I have my judgment. I've seen that he's got power, and he shouldn't have the power. Definitely not a man. Shouldn't have access to this power. She talks about it with the rest of them. Do you think we're going to be able to keep him here for hundreds and hundreds of miles without having some kind of incident on the road? Why don't we just do it right now, basically?
So they're talking about gentling, which is essentially not killing. Gentling is just essentially stripping them of their ability to channel.
Yeah, got that.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah, got that. Sorry if I'm making it sound more violent than it is. It seems like Liandrin is willing to cut him off. I think because of the other conversation that we hear from Tom later on about his nephew who was cut off from the source and then killed himself a few weeks after it happened. I think that's probably why I realize how visceral this is, that what they're trying to do is effectively any man they see with power, they make the decision as to what happens to him, cut him off from the source, and he'll probably kill himself or he'll die from being cut off from the source. So you're absolutely right. It is called the
gentling.
Yes.
You know, that's the Aes Sedai's PR department.
Oh, certainly.
What can we call it? Well, I want to be gentle. Why don't we call it gentling?
and much more so that we have the Green Aes Sedai, which is Karena, who is totally willing to just go straight back to White Tower. That's the job of what they're set to do, is to bring anybody that they suspect of being the possible future dragon, take them back to White Tower, follow all of the instructions. And then we hear Moraine, who is the Blue Aes Sedai. We hear her looking for more information, which I like. I like that she hasn't kind of made a decision either way, but she seems to be on the side of maybe we can use him, maybe we can work on him, whichever the dragon is. But she seems to be on the side of, let's just interrogate and get more information. She doesn't blindly follow orders as much as the Green Aes Sedai do, and doesn't go off on half-cocked at her own initiative like the Red Aes Sedai.
I think that's what's really interesting about this whole sort of sequence of them binding Logain, because you see the curiosity of Moraine in she's trying to work it out to see whether he really is the true one. Yeah. Just, you know, as she joins to take over from one of the Aes Sedai there, you know, she says, I'm experiencing the man's weave. I haven't experienced this. You don't get a chance to do that. You know, the power that he has, or the potential power that he has. I think the other Aes Sedai in the Green says it's like holding a cat in a bath.
Yeah.
You know, so even though it looks, and I think this, even though it looks serene, Chris, I don't think it is. It's just, it's the battle of, I guess, the power, and it's actually slightly invisible happening. As we see later, it seems, unless that kind of net sort of visualization of them binding Logain isn't tight to his body, then he can still weave the power of the one source. Yeah. So like it is really very cool. I like how, you know, this power is depicted, but also restrained and contained. Both at the same time, because you do just get the sense actually that Logain is waiting. Actually, that you don't really get the sense that he feels that there's too much to worry about here.
Yeah, but if I suppose that the reason why it sounds like Leandra is saying he's at half power, it's that, yes, he's waiting, but if half his power happens to be able to take out the net that's over him, he'll take the opportunity as well. You know, he's not fighting back, but half of his power is directed towards pushing back against this net. And if it happens to break because they haven't created the seal properly, of course he'll walk away, or he'll attack. But yeah, just back on the actual in the kind of fight between the Aes Sedai and who they are. What I like about Moraine, effectively, remember, all of them have been trained with this knowledge that sometime in the future, this person will come back. I love for Moraine that it's kind of, well, if I have the opportunity to see this person and learn about them, I'm absolutely going to take that opportunity. I'm not going to I'm not going to stick, you know, a bag over their head and drag them to the White Tower without, you know, really finding out. It's like thinking there's some kind of rock star in your midst. You're not going to not go and ask a question, you know? They've been taught about it for a millennia. They've been taught about this idea of someone going back. So why not investigate and get a bit of information about it?
Well, it's to Leandrin's point when she's talking with Nynaeve. You know, it's almost Moraine is like the Secret Service. She is collecting the information because knowledge is power, and that can be then deployed by the Aes Sedai in this forever war, effectively. So that's what I like about it, is you see she's operating just differently. Liandrin's very direct. She is action. Moraine is about holding back, almost being aloof and being quite secretive, or as they say, she barely talks. How can I get to know her when she doesn't even talk? It's very guarded from Moraine, and that is like like I've always thought, this kind of keeper of secrets. She knows a lot, but doesn't give it up.
Yeah, absolutely. Why would you give up the power? Should we talk a little bit about the warders here? We find out quite a lot about them in this episode, and a bit more about their connection to their Aes Sedai as well.
Yes, we do.
Yeah, I think the best explanation, after a lot of kind of conversations and a lot of naive, not understanding what the relationship is, one of them says it's not like parent and child, it's husband and wife. They are bound
more
together.
Than that.
It's husband and wife, in some way.
I thought they were saying the bond was even stronger, like this was.
It is.
So, I mean, yeah. It's
it's not like parent and child. It's not like husband and wife. It's stronger. Sorry.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely right. That was the terminology. Yeah.
It's essentially you to bond with your warder and your Aes Sedai is to essentially go beyond. So you basically know one another. You feel their emotions. You know where they are. If they hurt, you hurt.
Yeah, we even hear from Lan, I shouldn't have had a drink tonight because you get all emotional when I have a drink, when he's talking to Moraine. So, there's a kind of a
very much a symbiotic relationship.
Yeah, it is. It's almost symbiotic. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, it's almost telepathic relationship between them. They seem to be able to read each other's pain, or empathic relationship.
Empathic, yes, exactly. Yeah. And there's additional benefits that come from, as a warder.
Yeah, it seems like it.
Yeah, as a warder, you become essentially you faster, stronger, can heal. You're like more equipped. You've greater stamina, things like that.
Yes.
And then the Aes Sedai have a companion, a bodyguard. Because again, the reason, and I'm kind of speaking slightly out of kind of, this will be explained or has been explained and is everywhere. It's essentially, it goes beyond the three oaths, which is they cannot kind of use the one power as a weapon unless in defense of,
so that's been
Dark
explained.
One. And yes, it has.
Yeah.
So that the three oaths, essentially, that they can't use the one power, the magic, the source, as a weapon. They can't forge weapons from it. They can use it in defense of their own life, or that of the warders, or against the Dark One. So the only way they could be protected is it, like, if a bandit came on them, is the warder. The warder is essentially their walking, talking bodyguard. But goes beyond that. Again, it's companionship for when they're on the road. What you do see, and you guys will infer, and you'll see, is red Ajai, no warders. They don't have one. Blue Ajai, other Ajais, one warder. Green Ajai, two warders. Maybe 3 warders, 5 warders, 8 warders. They are there is definitely different numberings and different wants for the warders, different beliefs in its power, and you'll see that. And then again, it is slightly inferred that there are some additional benefits as the Ajais come and collect their warders as they go to bed. I think they're skirting the fact on Moraine and Lan. I don't know. I want to know what you think on that one.
They're very close. We saw in the first episode they're sharing a bathtub together, so they are very close. But I feel it is much more confidant and protector between Lan and Moraine. But they are massively close. I think we'll talk about it again when we get to our final point. The whole idea that with something really bad happening to the Aes Sedai, everybody is kind of aware of it happening at the same time. So it seems to be a connection maybe through the source between them all. That's kind of it on the first point of Logain. Let's pop on over to one of the other stories in the episode. The Fade, the Farmhouse, and the Black Stuff for our spoke number 2. This is all about what's going on with Matt, really, in the episode, and he's with Rand and with the new companion, let's say Tom. I like that Rand is going, what the hell is this guy coming along with us for? For opening conversation, really, with Matt. I love that he questions it and puts a real question to him. You know, I know he did kill the person that was attacking us, but wouldn't that be exactly the way that somebody who wanted to get their trust up would do it? Kill someone that was threatening us, you know? So I like that that's still under question in the episode. But yeah, what the heck is going on with Matt here?
Well, I love this. I have to say, I love what they've done here with the show, just with the horse being spooked. It's just a really nice touch. Because of what I guess dwells within, or what has been brought along, that is accompanying, Matt here.
So have I read this right? The city that they were in, they were being attacked in, which was covered in this black goo, let's say, the evil that was coming up. Shadow Lagoth, is that the name of the city?
Yep.
Yeah. So that city that we're in, where he took the knife from, Matt's the only person that took something from this city. So is that what's been brought with him, is this evil from the city? And it seems to be kind of inside him in some way.
Basically,
curse.
Yes. It's been looking to escape, but it can only escape with something. And so with Matt taking the dagger, I guess, the parasite as such has been able to hitch a ride. But you know, the book has a different way of doing that. Ultimately, you know, there is a hoard of treasure and there is a conversation with a person. So it's slightly different, but effectively same thing. And there's a story to this shadow. And I guess it's an advisor that poisoned the city, and so a bit worm-tonguey in that sense.
And I presume that story will be something that comes out now, what they're doing on here, because it's casting doubt on Matt. It's you're wondering whether Matt's maybe being controlled by the Fade, since the Fade is in the farmhouse and the whole family are found murdered by Rand. He's got the dagger out. Did anybody notice, was there any blood on the dagger?
No, there was no blood on. And interestingly, that, you know, the dagger is pointed by Matt to say, I see you. So it's not
being
necessarily
pointed at the Fade.
Yeah, exactly. And it that to me was really suggestive that even though there's the Black Shadow, that I'm not entirely happy. This Black Shadow is not entirely happy that the Fade is there either. And I thought that was kind of quite nice. Just, you know, well, it's, you know, evil darkness, but
versus other evil darkness.
Versus other evil darkness. Exactly. It's not just simply that they're in cahoots with one another. I loved how it sort of, they just represented it by it kind of just spilling out the side of his mouth and then kind of going back in.
Matt doesn't seem to know anything that's happened. He notices the dead bodies after pointing at the Fade with the dagger, effectively. So, and after the black stuff goes back inside,
and you see that with the vomit at the horse trough with the little girl from the family as well, which I thought was just really nice, in that, you know, he gets spooked by her, but then kind of just becomes the Matt we know, because it's the young sister of the family here, and he's there reminiscing about his two younger sisters from back home. So I really like that, you know, he is still there at this point, for sure. And I really loved however brief it was, I loved that battle with the Fade from Tom. I love
Daggers
the
coming from
Fade
everywhere.
catching that dagger in its hand. And I just thought it was really classy, like short and sweet, I guess. But you kind of get the sense of what Tom is up against here. And effectively is left to battle it out as Matt and Rand run out of the farmhouse, and you see them sort of escaping on horseback, giving it a good gallop. So this was really cool for me as well, and I like the notion being brought in here. That Tom Drill is not just a normal, or just a glee man is not necessarily something that is just simply an entertainer. I really like, there's nothing more dangerous than a man who knows the past. And then you have the story of, as you say, his nephew Owen, and being gentled by the Aes Sedai, and he sees that in Matt here. That's what he is thinking in terms of the off-kilter behavior from Matt. So this was really cool. I really enjoyed these little scenes. Even just the mother and the little kid with the bow and arrows popping up behind, sort of covering off this group of three by all angles as well. Clever farmer.
Very. I loved seeing Tom's fight.
Yeah.
Again, it's the visual representation of what I've read for years, which is you saw Tom's dagger. We saw it in the last episode where Tom is introduced. The dagger slowly kind of comes out of his pocket, his sleeve.
Yeah,
he kind of just drips out, and here we see how that is weaponized. So as he kind of flicks his hand forward, he's literally throwing a dagger, and then it's caught, and then he spins them, and that is something that is talked about in the books quite a lot, is how he spins his daggers, and he like with a flourish they are gone, very much like that kind of street performing kind of like now you see me now you don't,
right,
kind of on the daggers.
Yeah.
So seeing this was great. Want to call out one piece before kind of we end this, which is the dream sequence.
Absolutely, yes.
Which is absolutely fantastic. Again, we see Matt covered in blood as he walks with a dagger in his hand. We see Perrin hammering the body of his dead wife. And we see
Or at least
Egwene.
a body, anyway, yeah.
A body, but
We know it's the dead wife. Rand doesn't, who's having the dream. Yeah.
Yes, that's true.
Yeah.
And then we see Egwene being taken by the Dark One, or what we consider to be the Dark One right now, the Ember-eyed man.
Yes.
As she calls for Rand, lost.
Yeah, really good shout out. Yeah, that seems to be, that's the scene that wakes him up effectively. That dream is what wakes him up to go and search for Matt. Yeah.
And the reason I call this out is Rand seems to be the one who is conscious, cognizant of what's happening, whereas the others are very much in their dreams.
Yeah.
As we've been told in earlier episodes, dreams have meaning.
Absolutely.
So just watch these spaces as these dreams come.
Absolutely. And I think most of the time that we've seen dreams, it has been Rand that's been dreaming. We had a dream from Perrin in one of the episodes, but Rand has been the one that's been dreaming. And the fact that the dreams themselves are pretty connected to what we know has happened and what's actually going on, seems like he has some power in them. So yeah, really good call out. Interesting little side story in there. And hopefully we're not going to see Matt get worse and worse as the series goes on.
Hopefully we see Tom again.
Yes, hopefully.
Well,
a Glee man has gone against a Fade.
Yeah, exactly. That's the thing. Is will he survive this? Because it's difficult to know. The Fades are, dare I say, a cut above Trollocs by a long shot from like my rudimentary understanding. So Tom needs to be adept with his daggers if he's, I would say, to get out of there alive. Whether he could kill a Fade, I don't know. So it's good stuff. Yeah. Again, I think this is slightly different from book one, from my recollection of it. It's done in a little bit more of a public place, I think, in book 1.
Okay.
And I think that this is the cool thing. This is why I think now they've done it the right way, where they're keeping a lot of this. So far, they're keeping a lot of the main lore, the main kind of personalities, the main story beats per se, but they're doing a jazz riff on it, if you will.
Yeah.
They're adding a few new beats and kind of twisting it and turning it a bit. They're zigging when they should zag, but it's all kind of going to the same place. It's the same. It's a nice cover song, but it keeps me on my toes as someone who knows every single ending to every single character to every single piece. I'm still going, oh, cool. In that barn scene, I was like, oh, wait, like, I just thought this was just a stopover.
Yeah, exactly.
And I was like, oh, I like what you did. So I kind of appreciating a fine wine. I like what you did there, sir. Well done. Suits you, sir.
That's the big benefit, isn't it? When you have the 15-book series completed, it would be the same way if Game of Thrones had been done after George R.R. Martin had finished his storyline. You would have known exactly where it was aiming to. In this case, they have 15 books. They know where they're aiming towards because it has been completed. But not only that, they have the benefit that all the books are in the past, whereas the writer didn't. The writer was kind of going, I'm writing the next one, and then the next one, and then I'll change things and I'll do the next one. So they can actually see everything overall complete and go, right, we'll pick these bits here and there and put a bit more importance on them in the first season than maybe he put on the first book or in the second book. With Robert Jordan's version of that story. So they have loads of benefits there to adapting well. And I think right now they are adapting quite well from what you guys are saying.
Yes,
definitely.
That's kind of it for our spoke number 2. Let's get on to spoke 3. Let's go back to the encampment because we have one more major character to talk about and one more massive moment to talk about from the episode. The major character is Nynaeve.
Yes.
And as you say, John, in your note here, we never knew you had it in you. A really interesting one, we talked about the fact that there must be something more powerful about Nynaeve, from her appearances so far. She is the central wisdom for the town of Two Rivers. In the first episode, she does seem to have some very good tracking abilities, much to the enjoyment of the warders when she tells them that's how she tracked down Lan, who seems to be quite high up in the warders. They all seem to respect him quite well. But this young woman has been able to track him all across the forest, get them all a good laugh from them. But she seems to be trying to stay clear of everybody in case she gets shunned, I suppose, would be one of the reasons, or in case she gets attacked by any of them, because she does have that history where her mother or the person who took her in and brought her into being a wisdom was completely shunned by the Aes Sedai, so she doesn't like them at all. Anyway,
she doesn't trust them.
No, exactly, and it's like with the warders, you're more fun than you look. But then I really like that, but. She still qualifies it, but you serve the Aes Sedai, you serve them. So, you're great. True bros, hanging around, having a laugh around the campfire. Certainly, taking it out of Lan. I think she's quite happy about that, and getting sort of top billing because she's been able to track him. It's really nice.
Did she annoy all the warders with that comment? Her saying, you serve the Aes Sedai? And I know some Aes Sedai come past to take their warders with them, but all of them get up and leave pretty quickly after saying that.
Yes.
They try to explain who they are and what their position really is. And because she's already said, you serve the Aes Sedai, it seemed to go down quite badly with the people who were laughing and joking with her a second beforehand. They seem to take that as kind of a big slight on who they are.
Yeah, it is. And because it's almost like turning around to, I suppose, almost like Secret Service. Going, you serve the president, you serve that regime. It's like, no,
well, it's like saying it to a priest, isn't it? Or
actually, that's better.
I really like you. You're more fun than you look, but you still serve God.
Yeah, exactly.
Like
that's a much better analogy.
Guess.
Yeah, and it is going to annoy them because they're like, you don't understand what we are. You don't understand who we are. Mm-hmm. You have a lot of predetermined notions, and that is something that we've seen it from episode 1. Mm-hmm. There's this mistrust or distrust in the Aes Sedai. And there's also a misunderstanding.
Yeah.
Like, again, we hear this from the warder. Like, do you know what Aes Sedai means in the old tongue? Mm-hmm. And Nynaeve has no clue. And that's, again, a great kind of learning point for her, because it's like, no, the Aes Sedai serves all.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the you can see there's a fleck of admiration there.
Yeah.
In that, because she's slowly becoming friends with Lan. Mm-hmm. We see that in there. She knows there's more to him as he performs a ritual, a spiritual ritual that kind of honors his dead nation.
Mm.
Although we don't know his thoughts of her, because
true.
He says, I know exactly who you are, and so on. And then, of course, the camp is being attacked. But certainly, yeah, she seems like she's softened to Lan for sure. And I think there is more of a mutual respect there for sure, even though maybe Lan isn't showing it at the moment, or actually can't, because of the bond we've talked about previously between him and his Aes Sedai Moraine. So yeah, it's not that he doesn't, it's just maybe it's difficult for him to show. And of course he's like very different from some of the other warders, you know, and I guess that's because they're warders for the Green Aes Sedai, where, you know, there's maybe a lot more stuff going on after hours than a warming bath. You know, True. It's kind of sort of warders being in their sort of late teens and 20s compared to sort of 75 years old kind of thing, you know, I guess. I also really like Leandril here trying to get info from Nynaeve as well. Yeah. And Nynaeve's just saying, well, look, let me ask you some questions first. Yeah. And then you don't see the conversation, but they're interrupted by Lan, and she just turns to Lan and says, that woman is a snake. So again, just really reinforcing I guess her notions of the Aes Sedai and who they are. So
yeah, I really liked Nynaeve kind of going when Leandro comes up, she goes, "Oh, I'm not too sure I'm pronouncing your name correctly. I can't place your accent." And Nynaeve going, "Well, that's because I haven't spoken to you yet. How can you place my accent?" Yeah, really good. Again, you know, considering Aes Sedai are quite a central, powerful group in this whole in this whole book, or it's this whole story, it's quite interesting that, you know, it's mentioned multiple times that there are thousands of people that follow Logain, yet they set down camp and seem to stay there quite a while and are quite rested. You know, they've got their all their tents set up with all the food inside. They seem to be quite surprised by the fact that thousands of people come in to attack them to free their leader, Logain.
Well, I guess there was an element of arrogance. You know, they say we shot some firebolts, you know, and they ran off, and we captured Logain whilst he was sleeping and resting. I mean, they also do say, yeah, they've got people out making sure that they aren't attacked in case they come back. But I think there's an arrogance there on his followers.
Yeah,
and indeed, probably Logain as well, about how they can control him, even though they know he's powerful. And I think that's probably the difference with Moraine, is that she doesn't assume anything. She is about getting knowledge to inform her decisions. And that's really, really kind of a different process to Leandril, who is judge, judy, and executioner. Or that's what she wants to be.
Yeah.
And
I was laughing about the judge, judy, and executioner. Yes.
I mean, to the point whereby Karenni it says, you should be the one reminding me of the rules, not me reminding you. So, you know, maybe, as you say, she's been out on the road for a bit too long, setting her own rules, rather than following the rules of the Amelin seat, or even, dare I say it, I don't think she's broken the oaths of the Aes Sedai, but, you know, she's skirting.
Yes, very much so.
She's skirting.
And that's what they do.
She's liberal interpretation, as a lawyer might say.
Right. Yeah.
Yes, very much so on that. The one thing I will say is just with the warders, in the books, they've kind of played with the age slightly. So Stepan, who is the older warder, was a lot older in the books. He was kind of more grey, that kind of Verin, kind of from The Witcher, kind of that old grizzled warder type look. And
this is the guy that's having the conversations with Lan, is training with Lan as well.
Yeah. Because they trained a lot together in the White Tower and things like that.
You kind of feel that, though. The character feels like that, and I wonder, as we get older, does it look like people are younger on screen sometimes? You know,
that could be
like if you had a 16-year-old watching the show and who saw that actor, they'd probably be going, "Wow, he's really old in comparison to some of the younger."
He's ancient. Look at him.
Maybe it's that. But yeah, kind of speaking about them and their connection, I suppose we do see the death of Karena, the green Aes Sedai that we're introduced to in the episode here, who seemed very measured and seemed like, you know, following the rules. We see Logain breaking out of his bonds effectively, and she's the one that gets killed in this escape in some sense. Everybody else is being kept away by Logain's people and his followers who are fighting them. The battlefield fight works really well, seeing everybody use their powers in different ways to hold off the attack. I thought that was really interesting, seeing some of the powers that we got from some of the green Aes Sedai this time, for the most part.
Yeah. No, this for me was... I use spectacular quite a lot in this episode. I apologize. I will get a thesaurus for Christmas. But yeah, no, this for me was spectacular because it was a battle scene with like magic power, but also like so it's we get the understanding of what it's like to fight the battle Agi.
Yeah. In
that they wield the one power as a weapon against the dark ones, against when their lives are in danger. So you literally, one of the first times we see it is when the green Agi slams her hand and just explodes like a mine, like way in front of her. And I feel like obviously CGI or stuntmen, but like guy goes flying.
Yeah.
Like they sent a guy on a springboard for a second. I was like, that was high up. So really interesting to see. Yeah. Like that, and then like they visualize the battle well, and I don't mean in the kind of I talked about the spectacular visual effects and the explosions. That's cool. Just that, like seeing Nynaeve after stabbing, and she's not cowering, but she's like heavily breathing behind the tree as it kind of goes fuzzy, and you see the kind of slow-mo attacks, and just that kind of panic and the heartbeat and the audio kind of cues that go with the visuals, just like that battle sense, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it feels like a World War II battle that you'd see.
Yes, perfect. Thank you. Yes.
Yeah, it's kind of like, I mean, this whole sequence for me was brilliant, just from the kind of close combat in the trees, but then coming back to Logain. I think that's what did it for me. I think having, you know, all this chaos on the battlefield, and then having the events unfold where they're holding Logain, that, you know, his escape. I mean, I just loved, the effect of the cage, the actual cage that they have around him as well, melting. And you really get the sense of, okay, this guy really is serious, but you have Moraine arriving for this kind of 1-to-1, you know, and he seems open to it because maybe it's a new follower, like we saw at the start, and but asking the question, how do I know you're the dragon? And then as he describes, she goes, your power is but a trickle of what the true dragon would unleash. And of course that then, you know, seeing him doing what he's doing, you're going, well, he's pretty powerful, and even with, you know, the snafu of the water, I love the axes getting tainted with the weave. But you see, he takes them all down, with multiple injuries, absolute havoc, happening.
That's the explosion of the axe heads, which hits everybody, including Lan, who slit his throat. And genuinely watching the episode, I was going, wow, I didn't think that character would be gone that early in the show. I thought Lan was definitely going to be here in the series for a lot longer.
And I was thinking, I was basically thinking, do you think Moraine's really annoyed because she's literally just gotten patched up and now she's like she had the axe handle in her side, and of course then we get the epicness of what Nynaeve does, and the use of the One Power here, which was just phenomenal. And okay, you see the shock. But then the revenge of the Aes Sedai on Logain, once they've been able to sort of contain him again, effectively, that immolation of his power.
Wasn't that called out earlier on in the episode from Leandrin that if he attacks them on the road, then they can effectively take their own power into their hands, which is probably how they've explained all the other people that they've taken out on the road. But she did kind of explain that. So I was wondering, was a little bit of a setup from her, wondering whether she was just engineering this situation so that she could use her power to take him out. Like, did she potentially attract the followers of him to something like that? I was wondering, was there something that she did just because she calls that out that they can use their powers if there is an attack?
Well, that's it.
But Nynaeve's power is a healing power. It heals everybody in the room. It takes that, as you say, the axe handle out of the body of Moraine and heals her. It heals the shoulder of Leandrin. Unfortunately, too late for Karenna, who's dead on the ground. But Lan has his neck healed, which he looked like he was very quickly going to bleed out from that. Yeah. So that's quite an interesting, different power than what we've seen so far this season.
So she is. The fun part, we hear Rand ask and Matt ask, 5? Yes. Question mark? Yeah. And now we know who the 5th potential Dragon Reborn is. It is Nynaeve. She is part of that group, that 5. And it's huge. Like, her ability to tap into the One Power is like, as you said, is like a shining, brilliant star. Yeah. And Logain is pittance in comparison.
And this has all been brought forward as well. Like, this is virgin territory even for me. So this was quite exciting. Yeah. And that's why I just loved that whole sequence from when the camp was attacked to Logain being stripped or cut off from the One Power. Loads going on.
I will admit that I went when we saw Lan bleeding out, because Derek and I had a discussion, which is, what do you think they'll do? Do you think they'll do anything crazy, like kill off a main character from the books, just to keep everyone on their toes? Yeah. And I was like, when you said that and I saw this, I was like, no, oh my, there will be riots in the Wheel of Time streets, if you will.
I think we were talking about the fact that I come from a fandom of The Walking Dead, which has been going on for 10 seasons, and they killed off a lot of characters early on that show, and some of the characters have lived that didn't go that way in the books, and Game of Thrones definitely did that quite a lot in that show. So a lot of things that are based on books, they like to twist things for the viewers to just keep them on their toes. And we're early in the first season. We're halfway through the first season of Wheel of Time, and you may start to learn how they're going to translate the books. Whether it'll be that they just pull lots of things forward and shorten down the time that things happen, or whether they're really going to twist it and go, well, do you know what would make our story better if we do kill off a major character.
Yeah.
Which right now, that's why it was such a surprise, and it didn't happen. So maybe they're just going to play with us throughout the season, and maybe they're going to play with the book readers a few times.
So like, is he dead? Oh no. Is she dead? No. Are they dead? Oh, everyone's dead. No one's dead. No, they're all alive.
Come back next week.
Yes.
You'll find out what happens. So maybe that's the way it's going to go. Anything else on our final spoke for our wheel of this week's time?
Nothing on this final spoke for me.
Nope, nothing from me.
Only other thing that we should mention from the episode is just Gwenna and Perrin with the Tuathan. Just because they're still with them and they seem to be traveling along with them. There's not a huge amount that comes out of this other than just some more details about the traveling folk and who they are. You guys didn't mention it last week. One of our greatest actors from Ireland, Maria Doyle Kennedy, in the role of the lead member of the Tuathan. She's really recognisable to me because she goes all the way back in Irish film history to The Wonderful Commitments. She was one of the singers in The Commitments, so instantly recognisable when she's on screen. So great to see her in here as the lead Tuathan. I think she does have a great conversation with Perrin, which kind of frames another way of looking at the wheel, and another way of looking at why you would do the things they're doing. You know, they're a very peaceful group. As the traveling folk, and she's explaining that she's not doing it for her people. She's not doing it for anybody else. She's doing it for her daughter who lost her life, and that as the wheel turns, her daughter will be reincarnated, and she wants to make sure the world is a better place for her daughter. So I kind of like that explanation and that kind of connection that she has to this religion, almost this belief of what the Wheel of Time does.
Yeah, and we've heard about the song, like as they're looking for the song. I like that Egwene says, "Well, have you not already found it?" Seeing them all sort of enjoying themselves with the song, because these are they're the peaceful. I guess maybe you could argue idealists in a sense, but we get this, the way of the leaf as well, which I really enjoyed actually. Yeah. But it's that notion of reincarnation, that nothing is truly lost. It is cycling from the growth of the tree, the dropping of the leaves, and so on. It's going back into the tree and into the life, and to the, as you say, a new way of framing the Wheel of Time is through the Tree of Life, I guess. So it's really a different, more earthy way of looking at this world, which is really good.
Exactly. And you're right, I do like that Egwene's kind of pointing out the nature of the prophecy, which, you have a prophecy amongst a group of people that says, we will find the song that will bring us all together. And all these people are traveling across the entirety of the world trying to find the song that will bring people together, yet they're gathering this group of people together as they go. I love that she's kind of going, maybe the prophecy wasn't that every single person in the world will get together, but that you as a group, maybe you found the song and you're the ones gathering people to you. I love that. I think that's really a really nice description. And I like that she gets a bit of a laugh from Aaron when he realizes maybe she's right.
Yeah. A lot of important conversations were had on this in very short side piece of adventure. The discussion on the song, the discussion with Perrin about taking up a sword and an axe versus a hammer. Some could be just dropped Easter eggs for long time Wheel of Time readers. There's a lot of discussion about, and you'll see this as we kind of get deeper into the lore and the mythology of this show, about predestination, prophecy, like and as you said, like the question between, if you're looking for the song to bring everyone together, but through looking you bring everyone together, like which came first, the chicken or the egg? So that kind of, a lot of the things are like, if you're predestined to break the world, can you not break the world and still do it?
Yeah.
By like all these crazy, like it gets into that kind of prophecy, like fun and games. So a lot of interesting conversations had here, and I really enjoyed it. Yeah. But yeah, totally, as a whole, fun, as a kind of a detour before we went back to the main road.
Excellent.
Yeah. Just one final thing from me is just a shout out for again, in that end sequence, I didn't mention it before, just the music. I thought it was really epic. I just loved the way it sort of connected in. And I have to say, I loved Nynaeve's sort of attitude stir at the end as well, where they do a close in, you know.
Oh yeah.
That's twice now, and I really like it. She's on fire, and I really like it.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're totally right. The music from Lauren Balfe is fantastic in this episode, particularly in that last sequence. But I think they did the music for His Dark Materials as well for the BBC HBO production, TV show, which is fabulous. The music of that is fantastic as well. But I know one of the things that's really difficult for this show is a lot of the themes in the show are sang in the Old Tongue, which is in the books. That's the former language of a lot of the characters. So I don't think we'll ever understand what they say, but I love that the attention to detail of having these voices singing out in the Old Tongue throughout all of the themes that are going on in the background of the show, all the music that's going on in the show. But that's amazing to do that. But like in Lord of the Rings, having songs sung in Elvish or in Dwarvish, probably never going to understand what they say unless somebody gives me a Google Translate version of the Old Tongue.
But and speaking of Old Tongue, we learned that Aes Sedai does mean servants of all in the Old Tongue.
That's right.
Yep.
Yes.
I think that's it for all the points and notes and everything to talk about from this episode. Overall, I guess we have spoken. Chris, did you enjoy this episode of The Wheel of Time?
Yes. Guys, I'm pretty sure, like, even if they completely mess up an episode, I'm still going to enjoy it on some level. Mm-hmm. But again, for me, this is well crafted, well chosen, the path they are going from a written, breaking the narrative and the story of this book and kind of this just first book and bringing it together, explaining it in ways that I haven't heard before. Mm-hmm. And kind of they're breaking it down in a unique way. And I think that's fun for not just people like myself who are long, deep in this book, this series, but I'm starting to see this same kind of, I was going to say fanaticism, but that's incorrect. The same love of the franchise coming from myself, but also kind of slowly growing in embers in yourself, Derek. And then like the embers that becoming a fire with John, who has read the books and now seeing some of that come alive. Yeah. So really happy to see them do what they are doing here. Yeah. So yes, I do.
Excellent. How about you, John? How about yourself, John? What do you think of this episode?
I really enjoyed it. I've given this 4 cold chicken dinners out of 5. Don't go to the blue Aes Sedai tent. It's cold chicken dinners all the way. I really I loved this. I kind of wanted to see more of Rand, Tom, and Matt. If I'm totally honest, I really loved seeing Logain here, and it's not. To be honest, I just felt the episode. I wanted it to be longer. Not to take away from Logain and everything happening at the Aes Sedai camp. I just really wanted to see more of Rand, Matt, and Tom as well, because for me, I love that relationship that's there, and one that kind of starts from what we're seeing now. That is, it's a little bit suspicious, it's a bit antagonistic, really, but one that sort of builds really nicely between these characters. And so but I loved what we got. I love seeing Matt and the Black Shadow sort of beginning to sort of exert its influence. Again, just that little bit of that detail of having the horses acting up around him and him not being able to control it. It's just really nice touches that they've got here. I like finding out more about the Aes Sedai and the different colours, because it's not really something I'd gotten to in reading of the books. And I thought the game was great. I'm really hoping it's not the end of him, actually. I thought I want to see more of Logain Albar, because I think it feels like he puts a bit of, dare I say it, a stick in the spoke of the wheel, really, of what you expect. But I just don't know where that's going to go because it was all new to me. So it was a journey of discovery, seeing him and his control of the power, but ultimately effectively going, well, I can do it better than you from Nynaeve. Look what I can do. You know, I can heal everyone from a single go and, you know, take you out. So like she was mega, in this and, yeah, I just can't wait to see more, actually. Really want to see episode 5. So yeah, 4 cold chicken dinners out of 5. Derek, what did you think of episode 4 of The Wheel of Time, Dragon Reborn?
I love this episode. I thought the structure of how it was presented worked really, really well. The fact that you kind of get to sit with characters and learn about them as something massive is going on in the background, you know. Loved the idea that we got introduced to Logain at the end of last episode as this fearsome person that is claiming that he's the Dragon Reborn. We intro the episode with him in this massive city of Gaeldren, this big white city where there's a huge battle going on. And then by the end of the episode, they pull the rug out from under you. They tell you he's not the person you should have been concentrating on. It's Nynaeve that you should have been concentrating on. She's the one with the real power here. I thought that was such a great structure to the episode and a real surprise. You know, I totally expected because they, you know, you don't waste any time on screen when you're spending this kind of money. You really want to make sure you're telling stories that are really important. So to have a whole scene created around him in a massive city at the beginning, and then by the end of the episode, effectively right now, the way it looks is he's been depowered, he's been cut off from the source, and we've been told in the episode what happens to somebody who's been cut off from the source. They kill themselves because they can't live anymore with having lost that power. So is that the end of Logain or not? It might be, because we've had that description of him in the episode. Or does he regain his connection to the source in future? So I love that. I love the idea of setting up this massive character and then pulling the rug and going, something else was over here that you weren't paying attention to. So great episode. Really enjoyed it. Looking forward to episode 5 when it comes out next week.
And also, just quickly, the King of Gaeldren that follows Logain does ultimately fall on the battlefield in the woods at the Aes Sedai camp. In that battle, you see him sort of coming to his end. So, yeah.
Very good. In the fog of war, I didn't see that. I think it's time to get over and have a few drinks, guys. Will we go over to our Wheel of Time inn quiz?
To the pub!
Or a Wheel of Time tavern quiz.
Guess there's no pubs or taverns in this one. It's just more sitting around the campfire and sort of waiting for the pickup, I guess, from our local Aes Sedai.
What about the stable?
Like a barn dance, almost, yes.
Yes, we could have a barn dance, or while you drink, I'll shovel out the stable, I suppose. There you go. There, that'll work.
Followed by vomiting in the trough. Exactly.
Yeah, there you go. It's a perfect night out.
It's a perfect night out, yes. It is episode 4. It's question 4 of The Wheel of Time. Pub quiz, inn quiz, tavern quiz, you name it. But question 4. What is the name of the dog that slept on Moraine's bed when she was at the White Tower?
Not her dog, just the dog that slept on her bed.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
She didn't have a dog.
I promise, head teacher, it wasn't my dog.
Exactly. John, do you want to get the question one more time?
Yes. What is the name of the dog that slept on Moraine's bed when she was at the White Tower?
Excellent.
You can send in your answer to feedback@tvpodcastindustries.com. Just give the question in the subject line and answer away. You can send them in one by one or all together right at the end to be in with a chance for what goodies?
Wheel of Time.
Yes.
Goodies. Yes. Okay. I'm still not used to what as the one, and I'm really glad they're removing the from the Wheel of Time when they shorten it down. Well, we have got a few entrants in so far. If you want to get access to any of the questions or want to see the questions again, either listen to the last 3 episodes, of course, you can get them there. Of course. Or you can go to our website at tvpodcastindustries.com and have a list of the questions up there at the moment. Entry closes for this one on the 31st of December 2021. If you get your all your answers in by that stage, we will pull out a winner of the goodies on our wrap-up session.
We will pull
at the start of January.
Yes, we'll pull a Christmas cracker, maybe one that's left over.
Oh, Never
Something
leave
out of a
Mrs. Cracker
stocking,
behind.
maybe this time. Who knows?
Excellent. So get all your extras in, as we said, either weekly or by the end of it, and I'll compile them all for our final wrap-up episode. We have had a little bit of feedback in since we recorded our podcast and sent the episodes out there. Our first piece of feedback came in from Lindsay on the Behind the Timeline podcast. She said, what's up, TV podcast industries? I'm so excited you guys are doing the Wheel of Time. I've read the series many times and I'm loving the show so far. Just some quick feedback for you guys. You have the situation with the Dragon Reborn a little mixed up. It's not that there are two prophesized figures, the Dragon Reborn and someone who can stand against them. Moraine was saying that the Dragon Reborn can stand against the Dark One. Both Moraine and the Dark Friends want to find the Dragon Reborn because he could either be the one to stand against the Dark One and save the world, or join the Dark One and destroy the world. Hope that helps. I'm excited to see where the show goes and hear your thoughts. Lindsay at Behind the Timeline podcast. Thanks so much, Lindsay. I think that was just from the first episode where myself and John were talking about how they were describing the Dragon Reborn. But
Yeah, I think I was getting confused between the Dragon Reborn and the Dark One. I was making them one in the same thing, and of course they're not. They're different. So yeah,
That's okay, John. We
I
just
know.
can't let you guys podcast by yourself on this.
I know.
Your sole podcasting privileges have been revoked.
I'm off to get my connection to the One Power taken away from me by the fandom.
You are going to be gentled.
I'm going to be gentled by the fandom. That's all.
Excellent. So thanks so much, Lindsay. I think you guys might have either corrected that on episode 2 or 3, or as we said, this episode and episode 4, that's very clear exactly what the story is.
Yeah, we talked about this in the last episode when we have Dana, the Dark Friend, who is essentially tells Rand and Matt this. She basically kind of gives that information, and again later on in this episode, it's explained more. And I think that there's going to be a lot of these. Like, fun fact, for years, because my first reading was years and years and years ago, I used to call Dark Friends Dark Fiends.
Oh, yes.
So, periodically, throughout this podcast, I will every now and again go, and the Dark Fiend said this, and you can now, anytime I do that, and Derek misses a journal edit, because he doesn't need to edit every single word I say, just insert Dark Friend. There you go.
Excellent. I'll have to edit lots of those then, Chris.
Yes.
Thanks for that. Let's get on to a bit more feedback. Dr. Bob Phillips has listened to our episode 2 podcast. I'm going to read this one because it's compliments to you guys, so I'll pretend I'm Dr. Bob.
That's nice.
He says, well done to the Uncontrollable 2. You managed to keep it together without Derek and having only the usual number of diversions. Wondering again about the jumps into the Moat River and thinking, I'm sure Tom Daly went deeper into the pool when he dived from the scary concrete board. Well, he's an Olympian, trained for that for all of his life, and Green was basically pushed into a river in the first one and had to jump off the side of a castle with Perrin beside her. So I think they did a pretty good job. I'd be pretty terrified. No. But yeah, Tom Daly is understandably got that gold medal for his massive jumps.
Yes, he certainly does go deeper into the pool for sure.
Thank you so much, Dr. Bob.
Yes.
And yes, only the usual number of diversions. That is a massive compliment.
That is, yeah.
The two of us probably went on, I don't know how many kind of diversions before the podcast, so we kept it succinct.
Can you imagine if we weren't conscious of that? How we would have, dare I say it, rambled and rambled and rambled.
Can you imagine? It would have been the first 5-hour-long podcast we ever did.
Yes, we were free from the red Aes Sedai in Derek, enforcing.
I think what you'll actually find, Dr. Bob, if I do release the actual recording, there were way more diversions. I just cut it down to the that's how it works.
No, don't say that. Now you make us look bad. Yes. Thank you so much, Dr. Bob.
Yes, thanks, Dr. Bob.
A little bit of a break. The episode's now out, and we have some more feedback from our wonderful fellow wheelies. Dr. Bob has some thoughts about episode 4. He says, thank you, General Green Sedai, for having some sense of order and structure in the camp. Sorry you had to get blasted. Really like the way they're building the lore around the Aes Sedai and the travelling pacifists. The peace and work is as valued as the joy and dance. I really liked that. We also wondered, in the blast as bright as the sun, if all 5 have an aspect of the dragon, and only by combining Dreadful Dagger Boy, Muckraker Prince, Anvil Brooder, Braided Hermione, and the Caged Tiger will we be able to see how the wheel is turned.
Oh, I like that idea. Yes, kind of the A team, effectively, or the I team.
The Aes Sedai team.
The Aes Sedai team. Yeah. No, that's a really interesting thing that it's by our powers combined.
Yeah, I'm thinking because we grew up in the 80s and had lots of cartoons that had 5 people with aspects of a power, and you combine them all together to become Voltron or something like that. It's probably where that comes from. But really interesting idea, yeah, because everybody seems to have a little bit of power. Obviously, Egwene in this episode has massive amounts of power in comparison to what we've seen from the others, but they all seem to have something about them.
Yeah, definitely.
That could be interesting to see.
Well, they're all dreamers, aren't they?
Well, yes. Aren't we all, John? Aren't we all?
Yes, indeed.
Thanks, Dr. Bob.
Yeah, thanks, Dr. Bob. Jamie Lawson says, binge watched the first 3, really enjoying the show. Being a Dungeons and Dragons player for many years, this show hits home for me. I will now try to recap each episode with a Dungeons and Dragon adage. Episode 1, your basic Dungeons and Dragon 101. In combat, always take out the magic user first, or it will hurt.
True.
Episode 2, never split the party up. And episode 3, in the 5th edition of Dungeons and Dragons, bards are now very cool.
I love it. You see, they are respecting the traditions of Dungeons and Dragons. I love it.
It really is. It really is. Excellent stuff, Jamie. Thanks so much for the feedback.
Thanks, Jamie. Dan Lee says, wow, what an ending to episode 4. I was going to say it was nice to have a slower paced episode to get to know everyone a bit more, but damn. Also, I'm starting the official TV podcast industry's Egwene pronunciation scoreboard for you guys. So far we have Egwen, Egwine, Egwene, Egwene. I wonder, have we added any more to that in episode 4, John?
Well, we could say eggnog. I think.
Well,
a Christmas special. We could christen Egwene eggnog. I like Egwene as well. That's probably like the Me Cutes kind of version of her name.
That sounds like something you would call her.
Yeah.
Definitely. I did respond to Dan saying that we do have 2 book readers, Chris and John, who've read both books, as we've mentioned multiple times here, but both of them do pronounce most of the names differently. And then obviously having the TV show, which pronounces it differently again to what they both expected from the book. It was called out to me, though. At the back of each of the books, there is a pronunciation guide for each of the character names. So maybe we should have had a look at those before.
Yeah, I don't remember that. As I said in one of the earlier podcasts, it's sometimes you'll be reading through and sort of in your mind it would be because it's like, okay, none of those letters in that order make sense.
Absolutely. But I always do think it's a sign that somebody is a reader rather than somebody that watches TV or listens to audiobooks or that kind of thing, because you've created your own pronunciation from your reading, and that's a really good thing, isn't it?
Well, exactly. I mean, it's even like, so we're currently covering Hawkeye as well, and there is Jack Duquesne. If I look at his surname, I'm going Jack DeQuence.
Yeah, well, exactly.
So, yeah, I mean, who knows?
Yeah, we had to.
Isn't language wonderful?
Yes, we had to rewind that part of an episode when someone said his name out loud and write it down phonetically, which we do quite often. But it's quite difficult again with these names in Wheel of Time, because again, they say them all on the TV show, and you guys have come into it with your own perspective of how it was supposed to be pronounced anyway.
And certainly when the old tongue is being banded around as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks so much for your feedback, Dan. I'm glad you're enjoying the episodes as well.
Yeah, thanks, Dan. Deanna DeBreen Maskell provided feedback. She says, every episode is better than the last. So much of this episode made me gasp, cry, and goggle in amazement. Egwene and Perrin's story was just lovely, and I hope it offered some comfort to Perrin. I knew Matt's story could turn dark, but it is so heartbreaking to watch. But naive, wow, is all I can say. I love how much we learned through this episode without getting bogged down. Who needs sexposition?
There you go.
Absolutely, yes.
Yeah, that's what they traded in for Game of Thrones. That's how they got through the first season of world building, was literally just put someone on screen naked while you're talking about really deep stuff from the book mythology. But they don't need to do that in this show.
Yeah, so. I mean, the closest we got was the threesome of the Aes Sedai, the Green Aes Sedai, I guess.
That was just suggested.
And it was, exactly.
Yes. Excellent, Deanna. Again, thank you so much for your feedback. Glad you're enjoying it.
Lovely. Thanks, Deanna.
Angie Arhus says, I've not watched the 4th episode of the show yet, but I just wanted to make a comment, listen to the first couple of episodes of the podcast, and I love the name Wheelies for the followers of this show. Well done. Thanks, Angie.
Excellent stuff. Right. Okay. It's official then.
Mm-hmm.
Angie, you have created the official fellow wheelies, for sure. Because I think we've been calling them wheelers at the moment. So, yes. Wheelies it is from here on in.
I was mishearing it. I thought you were calling them wheelies as well.
I did in the first couple. Well, the first one I said Dragon Reborners or Reborn Dragons, it's way too complicated.
Yeah.
John, bad John, for coming up with that one. And then, I said wheelies or wheelers or timers.
Right.
I was kind of giving a range, but I think we'll stick with wheelies.
See, all we needed was one vote to push us over the edge.
Exactly. Thank you, Angie.
Thanks, Angie.
We also got in an email from Coffee and Vodka. Coffee and Vodka says, greetings, Reborn travelers. So, the green Aes Sedai are defenders of humanity. The blue are ambassadors or spies, and the red are internal affairs or the KGB. There are 5 possible reborn dragons now, one of them Logain with the abilities to prove it, but who might be a false dragon. The Tinkers are the Amish on wheels who, for all my waiting, have yet to turn into blank. Yes, I think that might be a little bit of a spoiler, so we won't read that out just yet, because I'm as excited about that as you are, Coffee and Vodka, for sure. Coffee and Vodka continues, the Gleeman's protection of Rand and Matt, attempt to keep them from the Aes Sedai, and his suddenly revealed battle prowess seems suspect, which means it isn't, or it is. Are he and the Fays on first name terms? And when is Matt going to become Venom? Love it. Yes, that is great. Venom makes an introduction into the Wheel of Time. Love it. Absolutely love it. Not going to lie, when it was mentioned that there were hundreds of miles yet to go, I thought we were in for a drama-tinged slog with very sparse action. But WTF, Wisdom Nynaeve has a vicious sting and might be a powerful green, or the dragon, or a powerful green dragon, while Logain's now a deflated balloon. A fantastically packed, well-paced episode. I'd give this, says Coffee and Vodka, 5 gentle emissions out of 5. Did someone fart in the episode? I'm trying to remember now. Was that silent but deadly?
I did read that twice when I was putting the feedback together, and then realised he means gentling, John. So when someone's gentled, there is an emission from... There you go. Okay,
excellent stuff. I see base humour comes into my mind immediately with that. I think Coffee and Vodka is certainly a higher level in that regard. Yes, 5 gentle emissions out of 5. Peace and take care, Coffee and Vodka. Thanks so much, Coffee and Vodka, for that. Yes, the Tinkers certainly are the Amish on wheels, and yes, I think there is certainly a storyline around that involving Perrin for sure.
Yeah,
and also from the books there is another person. I just can't quite remember their name now, but I remember loving that whole story. So it'll be interesting to see if that comes out, because in episode 4 it was really just very passing elements, really, around the Tuathon, the Travellers, and, kind of sort of beating into their lore, really, and what they're about.
Wasn't Chris pointing out that the kind of conversations that they have there are very important, but they may not feel important when you've got just them dropped into an episode like this.
Yeah, exactly. And it'd be difficult to maybe remember and carry through. Yeah. And certainly with Nynaeve, that is a huge new element for me as well, with that display. So cool. And I do like your description of vicious sting. I have to say, Nynaeve gives a great sort of side-eye look.
Yes, she does.
Fantastic. She would slay in any setting.
She certainly would, especially if she was a Greek dragon like that too. Thanks, Coffee and Vodka. Great to hear from you, and great to hear your feedback on the episodes as we go through them. Thanks to everybody who sent us their feedback on episode 4 and on the previous episodes. You can email us to feedback@tvpodcastindustries.com with any further thoughts. These episodes come out on Saturday at 5 p.m. GMT after the episodes have aired on Thursday night. Friday, depending on where you are in the world. So if you want to get your thoughts into us, you can send them into us to feedback@tvpodcastindustries.com. You can also join us on our Facebook group at facebook.com/groups/tvpodcastindustries. Or if you want to talk to us over on Twitter, you can get us at tvpodindustries. We'll be back later this week with our discussions about the first 2 episodes of Marvel's Hawkeye over on Disney+. And we'll be back next week on our Wheel of Time podcast with episode 5, Blood Calls Blood.
Do you think it has like data on the call package too, or is it like it just a kind of what is the Wheel of Time kind of call package? Is like Vodafone, O2, Verizon, AT&T?
Well, it would be the old dial phone.
It's a wheel.
You need the wheel. Yeah, exactly.
Thanks so much for joining us. We'll talk to you again next time.
Bye.
Yes, we're at that point where, there are no beginnings or endings, but this is indeed the end of our glorious podcast. Thanks so much for joining us, fellow Wheelers. As always, a pleasure chit-chatting with you and discussing all things wheelie and thwatty. Thank you so much. Keep watching, keep listening, and keep wheeling.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.